My spouse's hand lashed across my cheek with a stinging blow when I refused to relinquish my parents' home to her freshly graduated sister. She bellowed, "Get out of this house, you miserable fool." My reply was a single steady word. "All right." The following week, as she prepared to move her sister into the property, they were shocked to receive not a set of keys but a letter titled, Chapter 1, The Blow. The dining room stood still, meals untouched, when the confrontation erupted. Her sister had just completed her degree, and my wife glowed with pride. Then suddenly she turned to me and insisted, "Hand over your parents' house to her. She's earned a stable start." I blinked, certain I'd misheard. "Excuse me." Her voice cut like a knife. "She's young, ambitious, and deserves it more than your idle parents. They don't need it. Sign it over." I let out a dry laugh. That house had belonged to my family for 3 generations. My parents still resided there. You think I'd force them out so your sister can take what isn't hers? In a flash, her hand struck, the slap echoing louder than the clatter of cutlery. "You miserable fool," she screamed, eyes blazing. "If you won't comply, leave. Leave this house now." My face burned, but my tone remained calm. I rose unshaken and said, "All right." She believed she'd triumphed, thought her strike had broken me. But all right wasn't surrender. It was the ignition of a plan she couldn't anticipate. The next morning, I packed a small suitcase and departed. She didn't spare me a glance, convinced her blow and ultimatum had prevailed. Her sister lounged at the table, sipping tea as if the house was already hers. Unbeknownst to them, I'd been prepared for such a moment for years. My father's advice resounded. Protect what's yours with legal safeguards, not fights. I'd followed his counsel. The house wasn't in my name, it was held in a family trust, with me as the trustee. The trust was airtight. No sale, no transfer, no loans without the consent of every blood heir, myself, my parents, and even a distant uncle. My wife had no claim. That week, I consulted my lawyer. We drafted a letter outlining not only the trust, but also the prenuptial agreement she'd conveniently overlooked. The prenup was explicit. No access to family assets, no alimony in cases of abuse or infidelity, and a clause nullifying her marital share if she attempted to seize property. I also opened a new bank account, rerouting my earnings there. Quiet, deliberate moves. A week later, when she and her family arrived at the house with boxes, ready to settle her sister in, my father handed them an envelope instead of keys. They stood on the porch, brimming with arrogance. My wife's sister even jested. "Don't scratch the floors when you leave. I'm ordering new furniture." My father, composed yet resolute, handed them the sealed envelope. "Read this," he said, his voice calm but sharp. My wife tore it open, expecting triumph, then froze. The first page was the trust deed, notarized and official. Her face drained of color as she read. "Property at 241 Oakwood Lane is held by the Carter Family Trust, managed by trustee Daniel Carter. Only blood heirs could authorize its use or transfer." Her mother snatched the document, flipping through it as if her anger could alter its terms. Then came the prenup, its critical clauses highlighted. No rights to family property, no alimony if she initiated hostility or tried to claim assets, and forfeiture of marital rights upon violation. Her sister's confidence faltered. "This can't hold up," she muttered. My father leaned forward. "It's not just valid, it's ironclad. And your demand for the house, plus that slap, activated the forfeiture." The final page was my handwritten note. "You wanted me gone. I'm gone. But this house was never yours, and now neither am I." A heavy silence descended. Not their earlier bravado, but the weight of their dawning defeat. They'd lost not just the house but the control they thought they wielded. And I wasn't finished. Word spread like wildfire. My father, who'd remained reserved through much of it, made discreet phone calls. By nightfall, relatives, neighbors, and colleagues heard of the ordeal. The next day, the narrative was clear. My wife had tried to seize a house that wasn't hers, struck me, and banished me, only to discover the trust and prenup left her with nothing. At her workplace, her reputation unraveled. A supervisor remarked, "Mistreat your family like that, and people talk." Her once overlooked arrogance now marked her as impulsive and entitled. Her sister, who'd bragged about moving in and even paid for renovations, faced ridicule from peers when the truth surfaced. Contractors withdrew. Her reputation crumbled before her career could take root. Her mother, who'd smirked during my humiliation, became an outcast in her social circles. How could she raise such daughters? People murmured. Invitations dried up. Old friends avoided her calls. Meanwhile, I stayed composed, offering only a courteous nod at family events. My silence was louder than any outburst. But the decisive strike was yet to come. For weeks, my wife, her sister, and her mother tried to salvage their dignity, weaving stories of misunderstanding. He misled us, they insisted. We didn't know about the trust. But gossip is unforgiving, and I held one final move. My father hadn't just protected the house. He'd named me trustee of several rental properties my wife's family assumed they'd inherit through her. They'd been secretly collecting rent, pocketing it without reporting it. I had the evidence. Every illicit transaction, every unreported tax. With my lawyer, I filed a motion to freeze their accounts for investigation. Overnight, their ill-gotten funds were locked, legally mine as trustee. The fallout was swift. Her sister withdrew from her graduate program, unable to pay. Her mother sold her jewelry and car to keep up appearances. My ex-wife lost not just me but all credibility. No family wanted her near their sons after the fraud came to light. I rebuilt quietly, settling into a modest yet comfortable home, working diligently, and caring for my parents. One Sunday her sister appeared, tears streaming, begging, "Can we at least stay in the guest house? We're desperate." I handed her a copy of the trust deed, not keys, and said evenly, "Actions have consequences. This house is my family's legacy, and you ensured you have no part in it." Her expression collapsed, and she left without a word. The day my wife struck me, she thought she'd broken me. "Get out, you miserable fool," she'd shouted, her sister smirking. But that moment sparked my resolve. Months later, I stood on my parents' porch, the trust secure, their plans in ruins. The same porch where she'd demanded I give up everything. Inside, my father's laughter and my mother's tales warmed the air, their legacy untouched. My ex-wife now resided in a dilapidated apartment across town, her allies shattered. Her sister worked late shifts at a diner. Her mother swallowed her pride daily. They avoided gatherings, unable to face the whispers. I wasn't rich, but I had tranquility. I wasn't loud, but I had respect. I wasn't perfect, but I had my dignity. One evening, locking the door, I caught my reflection in the glass. A man who'd not just survived betrayal but transformed it into strength. That slap was no longer a mark of shame. It was the sound of their world breaking apart. Each time its memory crossed my mind, I smiled, knowing it signaled the beginning of their downfall.